Hello, boys and girls. I'm back. Crazy Angry Engineer is angry again. Um, Actually, I'm not angry on some rather insignificant things. I'm angry at a huge number of companies, and this is becoming a trend in um, in the industry. IT industry. Um, and the trend is that a lot of companies do not have um, any kind of libraries or drivers for their sensors for Linux. I would understand if you didn't have these for Windows, but seriously, not having these for Linux, that's a little bit retarded. It's not a little bit retarded, it's actually really, 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 really bad and really fucking retarded. Let me explain why. If you're building a sensor, usually some of these sensors are integrated in your embedded system or in some kind of product that you are building. In 99% of the time, if you're building a embedded system, you do it in Linux. Otherwise, you are, pardon my French, retard. And you shouldn't be doing this. You should actually find someone to do it for you, someone that is knowing what they're doing. Then if you have this, as a problem, what does it mean? It means that actually you are throwing away majority of your market. Who the fuck programs anything for Windows? Why would anyone do that? I mean, especially if you're buying custom sensors. For example, I'm buying a sensor that costs a couple of thousands of euros, and I'm trying to integrate it in some kind of invention that I have. And that invention, if it needs to be compact, small, mobile, it will most definitely be in Linux or Linux embedded. Then why the fuck would you create libraries and drivers only for Windows? Why? It's like, oh, you know what? We're going to cover the smallest part of our market. Actually, not the smallest part of our market. The smallest part of our market that only idiots actually develop for. Why? And this is a trend. This is a trend for so many companies. Okay, I'll tell you another, albeit a little bit less extreme example of companies going completely berserk and completely idiotic, like full-blown idiots. This is not that bad. This is not that bad. So again, you're building sensors, okay? Small sensors that should be very nice and very sweet for wearables, for small embedded devices, yada, yada, yada. But guess what? You're building them just for bare metal development. You don't have anything for Linux. Okay, let me now explain one thing for you. Why the paradigm should be shifting just a little bit. If you don't want to cover that part of the market, you know what? Go fuck yourselves. I won't be taking any of your sensors. Why? Because I don't want to. I have, for example, a Linux embedded platform that I have already 4 or 5 sensors on. So why the fuck would I take your product if you are not Linux friendly? Why? Why would I buy it from you? It's simply bare metal, microcontrollers. They don't have enough processing power to actually help me incorporate one more sensor into an already cramped multi-sensor system. Why would I do it on Arduino? Arduino can get, I don't know, 2 or 3 sensors if you are lucky, and frankly, development environment for 21st century is crap. I mean, you try to debug a program today, 21st century, you try to debug a program or on Arduino Nano IDE, their integrated development environment, and you know what it tells you? You cannot put any breakpoints. Do you know why? Because you cannot debug. You need to write bugless code. Holy mother of fucks. I mean, for fuck's sake, PIC32 that I worked on with its horrible development environment called MPLab, which was written by idiots for idiots. It was definitely not written by software engineers, because we software engineers actually debug all the time, and we know that you cannot by default just put optimizations and then all of a sudden you start debugging and debugger goes like dig, and then all of a sudden just jumps somewhere in the code. Why? Because the optimization for your code is by default on. So it means sometimes it can fuck up, pardon my French, foul up completely and figure out that, oh, you know what, prediction was wrong, now I have to empty the entire fucking pipeline and poison everything and return to the last valid instruction and shit like this. Why would you do such a thing? So let me come back again to the point that I was on before. So you have microcontrollers. They cost, I don't know, Arduino Pico costs like $2. Guess what? Raspberry Pi Zero, which is a lot more powerful, costs 5, 6, 7. Why would you buy Arduino Nano? Why would you buy it? Okay, fine, no problem. Someone might actually tell me, you know what? Power consumption is a lot smaller. Okay, fine, not a problem. Power consumption a lot smaller. Then buy Raspberry Pi Pico, I think, yeah, Raspberry Pi Pico, which actually, I was thinking about Zero. I said Zero, $5. Raspberry Pi Pico is like $3, and it actually has a lot more powerful processor and a lot more memory, and for not that much money, and the power consumption is not that much more. Why would you buy something that is very bad? And no one is developing it's like everyone is like, "Oh, I'm fine. I found some Python script on internet." I would hang an engineer that actually makes a Python script and then puts that Python script on embedded system, and that stays on that embedded system up until the final product. I would put that engineer to the wall and fucking shoot them. That's it. That's it. For embedded, I'm sorry, you have to write in C or C++ or assembly code. I don't care. Assembly, it's a different mindset of idiots. Sorry, not idiots, but 21st century. Why would anyone do something in assembly? Okay, again, there might be special cases where you actually need to use assembly. It's so fucking rare that off the top of my head, I cannot remember a single one. But I can understand that. But for Python, I would break your legs. Honestly, I would break your legs for that. Because you are allowing these idiots to actually produce this shit. And to keep other idiots as their developers developing bad code. And we end up with bad code that we have to deal with. Okay, let me give you an example. Again, I think I already gave you this example, but it doesn't really matter. Bosch SensorTech library for BNO055. It's a crap sensor that costs a lot. It costs 40 euros, and it should cost like 2 euros at most. It should be a toy for kids. It's not an electronic compass. It's not. They never tell you how precise it is, and it's not precise. And then you get to a point that, okay, let me play a little bit with it. And you're like, okay, let's see if they have any kind of library for it. Guess what? They do. The library is 2 files, which is okay. There's C file, which is, if I remember correctly, 15,000 lines of code. And there's header file, which is 7,000 lines of code. If you actually came with that kind of software to my assistant professor in ETH, and you showed him that, he would have told you to just buy 100 sheep and just go to the mountains and just take care of those sheep and live like that, like a shepherd, because engineering is not for you. Engineering is definitely not for you. So let me tell you why I'm thinking like this. Because if you have 22,000 lines of code, which, by the way, when I started cleaning up all the shit that I didn't need, I don't need to actually set up every register on that damn thing. You don't have documentation to tell me what does this register do. So I'm not gonna use this. Even if I do want to use this, you could have actually gotten this out in a separate header, in a separate CPP file. You could have used something called, well, I don't know, design patterns, for example, that exist for God knows how long, and everyone has their mouths full of that shit and no one is using it. There's a design pattern called facade, where you actually expose to common user only the things that he wants to use. You can have something behind the facade. You can give the access to the guy, but if he wants to just read the fucking data from the sensor, why the fuck that person need 22,000 lines of code, which I actually reduced, and the sensor was still working. It was shit though, but it was still working. I reduced that and cleaned that up to the magical, I think it was like 3,000 lines of code, which is again so not fucking elegant. It's ridiculous. So, the point of today's tirade is please, huge companies that create sensors, please look at your market and think, what do these guys need? Oh, well, most of them, like 99% of them, do not develop for Windows. Then why the fuck would we have drivers for Windows or libraries for Windows or any kind of code for Windows? If you're 1%, then fuck you. You should write it down. No, you're actually bothering the 99% of people, probably with the premise, oh, they use Linux, they know what they are doing. Yes, but why do we have to lose our time? If you already lost your time, then at least do it for most of us. Make our life easier. I don't want to fucking write drivers for like 6 times. This 6 times. And I have like 4 sensors in the system. Why? Because I had to write drivers for 2 more things that I never used. Yeah, it makes me very pissed off. Like properly pissed off. Yeah. I really want your comments on this and your opinions. Please hit subscribe. I started doing this. Oh dear God, I never wanted to say this, but yeah, if you like this, please hit subscribe, and if you like it, just click like button. That's it. I might actually, if there are quite a few of you, I might actually do some more videos and be more active now, because I'm working on some interesting things, and I might share something that some of you might actually find interesting. Toodles.